Welcome everyone, this is Zozo Stockwatch, and let's get ready for the week ahead. September 18th through September 22nd. Dip buyers win again as the stock market moves to more new highs. Strong finish to the week. The market returns to record territory despite hurricanes and North Korea launching missiles. The tax plan, we'll see if that will go through. Unfortunately, we had another terrorist attack in London, but the markets just ignored it. It seems to ignore anything negative and the market moves up. The US over 20 trillion in debt and the market ignores it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the week that passed, and you see on the Nasdaq Composite we were up 1.39%. As far as the Dow Jones Industrial Average, we made record highs and it was up 2.16% for the week. If we go ahead and look at some of the smaller caps, the Russell, the IWM, that was up over 2.29% for the week, and the micro caps was up almost 3% for the week on the IWC. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the markets and see where we're at. On the Nasdaq Composite, as you can see, we're still above the 10 SMA, the 20 SMA, and all moving averages are pointed up on this weekly chart. As you see, we're holding the 10 SMA on the daily chart for the Nasdaq Composite. If we go ahead and look at the Dow Jones, we broke out over this 22,200 spot and we're at record territories. We did a nice bounce off the 50 SMA and we talked about that in the previous Let's Get Readies, and we see that it held the 50 SMA several times and powered up off of that. If we go ahead and down and look at the QQQ, and you can see my lines and the ranges that we were in, it was a beautiful bounce off around this 50 SMA, and then we held support at the 10 SMA and powered up. If we look at it on the weekly chart, and I'll go ahead and get some of those lines out of your way, you see that we're up near all-time highs even on the QQQ. So what does it have in store for us next week? Well, let's go ahead and look at some of the sectors and charts. If we look at the IYT, all right, we're going to look at the IYT on the daily chart, and we did have some selling in the IYT, the Dow Jones Transport. So here we go again with the Dow powering up to new records. We had the transports down on Friday 2%. Let's check for the week. It was down a little under 1% for the week, but we are retesting that 10 SMA on the IYT. HACK, the cybersecurity ETF, is holding above the 20 SMA, and it's also holding above the 10 SMA on the daily. Such names as FEYE were really powering up this week, and FireEye was up over 8% for the week. If we take a look at Palo Alto Networks, that one held its own. It was down fractionally for the week, but you see it's been having a very strong chart on the daily after it gapped up after earnings. CUDA is another name in the cybersecurity ETF, and that one is powering up over that 2450 area on the daily chart. If we look at silver, they didn't fare as well for the week, and silver was down for the week 2.35%. GLD was also down 1.91% for the week. We'll go ahead and look at the ETF, TAN, and that is the solar ETF, and that had a very good week, and that was up almost 2.5% for the week. And that has such names as First Solar, which had a very nice week. It was up almost 8% for the week on First Solar and looks very strong. Next up, we'll go ahead and take a look at the banks, and the banks for the week were up almost 3%. Such names as JP Morgan. JP Morgan was up almost 4% for the week. Citigroup powering up to almost new highs, up 4% for the week. Bank America up almost 7% for the week on Bank America. And lastly, we'll take a look at WFC, and that one was even up 4% for the week. So the banks had a very good week. If we go ahead and look at oil, all right, and oil was up 5% for the week. And we also closed up near that $50 level. A few times this week we did breach 50, but we did pull back from 50 on oil. But we are trying to get back above that $50 spot on oil. But it had a very good week and it was up almost 5%. The ETF for oil is the USO, and that was up 5% for the week. And if we look at the daily chart for the USO, you see we're up above the fast moving averages on the USO. The ETF for lithium, LIT, had a fantastic week. That was up over 10% for the week on the LIT, and you see that's really powering up. What a move in the LIT. If we go ahead and look at the OIH, the oil names, the service sector, the OIH for the week was up almost 7% for the week. And some names like Schlumberger, that was up 4% for the week. Rig was also up 9% for the week. And also Halliburton, which is part of the OIH, that was up 5% for the week. UNG was also up for the week about 5%. The dollar was about flat for the week on the dollar, and we'll go ahead and check the dollar index here. And you see the dollar index was up about 0.5% for the week, but we're still below the 200 SMA on the weekly chart for the dollar. If we look at it on the daily chart, you see we're still in this downtrend. We're still below the 20 SMA. So the UUP, which is the ETF for the dollar, the index fund, that is down below the 20 SMA also, and we'll look at it on the weekly. So it looks like it's still trending down. Would need to hold this low that was made on Friday, September 8th, and that low was 23.66. Next up, we'll go ahead and take a look at social, which is powering up, and this for the week was up almost 2% for the week on SOCL, and that's such names as, you know, Facebook, Snap, Twitter, and Twitter for the week was up over 3% for the week. The SMH powered to new highs, and we did break that 90 spot, which we've talked about before, and we're trading 91.09. What a powerful move in the SMH, and that's such names as TXN, all right, and a beautiful push in TXN for the week. TXN was up 4%, but the big leader in the SMH was NVIDIA, and this got a $250 price target by Evercore, and that pushed up 10% for the week on NVIDIA. Some other names, AVGO were up 3% for the week. TXN, like we said, was up 4% for the week. So some of the major semiconductors had very nice moves. Even Intel was up for the week 5%. And if we take a look at the Intel chart, we see we have a beautiful bounce off about 34.50 on Intel, and powering up. Even on Friday was up 1% on Intel on that name. So some very nice action in the semiconductors. Next up, let's go ahead and take a look at JETS, and this is some of your airlines. And on the weekly chart, we were up 3% for the week, and we're holding this 50 SMA on the weekly for JETS. Let's go ahead and look at some of the airline stocks. AAL, and that one was down about 0.5% on Friday, but for the week that was up over 5% for the week. DAL was also up almost 2% for the week. UAL was up over 2% for the week. LUV had a very nice week. That was up over 4% for the week. And lastly, we'll take a look at SAVE, and that was up almost 2% for the week. And I should say JetBlue, we'll check on that one too. That was up 4% for the week. So a very nice week in the airlines, but like we said, the IYT itself was down for the week 0.77%, and on Friday the IYT was down 2% for the week. Lastly, let's go ahead and take a look at the IBB, and the IBB was actually down for the week. It was down 0.68% for the week, but not too much damage after this big push up. A little bit of consolidation here near the top. If we look at it on the daily chart, the IBB seems like, it might be trying to roll over a bit. You see the 5 EMA crossing the 10 SMA, but we do have some bottoming candles here around that 330 spot on the IBB. So we're going to have to keep our eye on this and see what the IBB has in store for us next week. LABU, this one held up nicely, and that was up 1.64%. For the day on Friday. If we go ahead and look at the XBI, which is some of the smaller biotech names, For the week, we'll take a look at it on the weekly, and that is consolidating up near the top and up near that 85 level. If we look at it on the daily, same boat as the IBB, holding below the 10 SMA, but trying to hold the 5 EMA. So we're in this consolidation right now on the XBI. For the week, the XLE was up over 2% for the week. Something I didn't like on this chart was this candle and action we had here on this was on Thursday. We had this inverted hammer up here at the 150 SMA, and then we had this move down on Friday of about 1% on Friday. So we're gonna have to keep our eyes on the XLE. Maybe after this nice run and push up, maybe it wants to consolidate here and let the 10 SMA catch up. So we'll keep an eye on that for the XLE. The GBTC, the Bitcoin Investment Trust, for the week was down 12%. Bitcoin, now we don't know if China's going to stop the exchanges. There was rumor of that, and I spoke about that last week. So supposedly on September 30th, they're supposed to stop the exchanges for Bitcoin. But GBTC did have a nice bounce on Friday. This is the daily chart, and it bounced up over 22% from about 500 on the GBTC. Another ETF I like to keep an eye on is this Robo, R-O-B-O, and for the week that was up almost 3% for the week, and this thing has just been powering up, and you see we've been riding the 10 SMA on ROBO, and that has been riding the 5 EMA on the daily chart on ROBO. Very strong sector. The steel sector, we'll take a look at that. We pulled back to the 20 SMA. We've been here before on the daily chart. If we look at it on the weekly chart, just a slight pullback. Some names like US Steel was down 7% for the week. AKS also down about 5% for the week. NUE for the week was down 2% for the week. STLD was also down about 3% for the week. So the steel's having some pullback. And next we'll look at the and lastly, I should say, the thing that we'll look at, we'll take a look at the VIX, and you just see that there's no volatility in the VIX at all. We're down here at this 10 spot on the weekly chart, and you see how it's been holding this 10 spot. We've been as low on the VIX down by at 8.84, and now we're currently at 10, but it looks like we may be going down to test it again on the VIX. If we go ahead and look at it on the daily chart, for the day on Friday, it was down 2.59% for the VIX, and for the week it was down 16% for the week on the VIX. So that's some of the stocks and some of the markets, and we'll go ahead and look at some of the best stocks and worst stocks for the week. So some of the best stocks for the week was BZH, which was up 19% for the week as they upped their guidance at BZH, Beazer Homes, and a very powerful move on the weekly chart. So we'll keep an eye on this one for sure. NBR was up 14% for the week, an oil name. RIG, like we said, was up 9% for the week. CHK up 10% for the week on CHK. WLL plus 22% for the week. APA was up 8% for the week. DVN up 7% for the week. GPS, which is a retail name, was up 9% for the week. NVIDIA, as we mentioned, was up 10% for the week. SWKS was up 5% for the week. BWLD, restaurant name, was up 9% for the week. Tesla had a fantastic week. That was up 11% for the week on Tesla. ALDX was up 114% for the week on ALDX. ZAGG was up 20% for the week. NXTD plus 30% for the week. PIR up 18% for the week. AMSC plus 27% for the week. HMNY, this one pushed higher, 34% for the week on HMNY, and most of that was on Friday. ABEO was up 24% for the week. MRTX was up 124%. SAEX, which is an oil name, and that one was up 42% for the week. So some very nice moves. In ALDX, that one was up 114% on release of the data of its phase 2. So a very nice push up there on ALDX. Some of your worst stocks for the week, we had Cliff, and that was down 10% for the week. And then the other steel names were down. AKS, that was down 5% for the week. X was down 7% for the week. NUE, as we mentioned, was down 2% for the week. Oracle, they had earnings and then their conference call, and that was down 6% for the week. So a big push down in Oracle. EFX, which allowed everybody's information to get released, was down 25% for the week on EFX. GKOS was down 25% for the week. VSLR, this is a solar name, but it was down 15% for the week. CRIS, after they did a secondary, down 20% for the week. BEAT, down 15% for the week. ADOM, down 46% for the week. ICPT, down 19% for the week. ACHN, they were down 25%. As the decision by their partner Janssen to discontinue development of Hep C. So that stock ended up the week down 25% on ACHN. PLSE down 20% for the week. HIIQ down 25% for the week. And SAGE down 28% for the week, as phase 3 didn't meet the primary endpoint on SAGE, and that stock was down 28% for the week. So that was your worst stocks for the week. So some stories we're going to have to keep an eye on from this week that may linger into next week is Texas and Florida hurt by economic body blow from hurricanes Harvey and Irma. So we're going to have to see how this plays out, as they were hit. Key West and Texas were very much hurt in Houston, and we're going to see how their economies, if they're able to bounce back. So that'll be a story that lingers for a while. As far as the U.S. and North Korea, U.S. should refrain from further North Korea threats, says China ambassador to the U.S. So we'll see what's going to happen with this North Korea, China, and the United States. Significant arrests made in connection with terror attack on London Underground, and also they are at critical on their terrorist alert. So London is in critical on their terrorist alert, and we'll see how this plays out for next week. Apple had their event, and analysts are worried about the iPhone X, and we're going to see how this one is, if this one sells, it doesn't sell. The phone goes for what, $999. So we're going to have to see how Apple does with this new phone that they just that they're going to be releasing. The U.S. is now over $20 trillion in debt, and so we're going to have to keep an eye on this story for a very long time. Equifax data breach, and I showed you in the stocks for the worst stocks of the week. That stock was down another 25% for the week. Equifax data breach poses massive threat to retail accounts. So that story is going to linger for a while.
Them to only 3 brackets: a 10% bracket, a 25% bracket, and a 35% bracket. We're going to double the standard.
So Trump's lower tax rates may be a fantasy. So this is something that's going to be talked about next week and the weeks to come. Is he going to be able to get the tax rates down in the United States? So this one is still out there and dwelling. As far as hurricanes go, we have Maria, and this one might be heating up and headed towards Puerto Rico, and then after that, we're not sure. So this is Maria. And the last thing I want to show you is we have 3 more storms. We have Lee, Maria, and Jose, and they're all out there, and we have to see what direction and what force they're going to be hitting, and if they're going to hit the United States or Florida, or where they're going to hit. So 3 hurricanes are lingering for next week. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the top gainers for Friday. We had that MRTX, ABEO, VJET, GRVY, MBOT, TSG, REN, TNK, ICPT, LPTH on their earnings, ASNA and FRGI, and these were your top gainers for Friday. For your top losers Friday, HSIC, FALC, TTOO, OPNT, SPI, Oracle on their earnings, AKTX, ATUS, FMAO, INBK, ANSS, and KANG, KANG. We did have some unusual call activity in Alcoa, AMCX, AMD, DYN, KORS, LYB, OCLR, and the VIX. On the put side, we had some unusual activity in CRTO and VRX. So let's go ahead and get ready for the week ahead with some of our economic information. For Monday the 18th, we have housing market index, and that's at 10 o'clock. On Tuesday, the big day, the FOMC meeting begins. All right, as you see, that's in red. After that, we have 8:30 import-export prices, housing starts, and at 8:55 the red book. 4:30 we have the API crude oil data coming out, and we do have some Asian numbers coming out from Japan at 7:50 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday night. The meeting starts on Tuesday the 19th for the FOMC, and then we get the meeting announcement at 2 p.m. FOMC meeting, and that'll be on Wednesday the 20th, and also there'll be a press conference where Yellen will take questions, and that'll be at 2:30 on Wednesday the 20th. So very big day, Wednesday between 2:30, and we'll see how the market reacts that day. As far as some of the economic information that day, the MBA mortgage applications, existing home sales. For Thursday, we do have the initial jobless claims at 8:30. We have 10 o'clock leading indicators, and then we have our nat gas numbers. Over here at 10:30, I forgot to mention, we have petroleum oil status report at 10:30, so we'll be watching oil at 10:30. For Friday, we have some economic information coming out from Europe, GDP for France, and Germany's PMI. Then we have some Fed speak going on Friday at 6 a.m. John Williams will be speaking. Canadian CPI and retail sales be coming out at 8:30. At 9:30 a.m. we have Fed speak. Esther George will be speaking. 9:45 we have the PMI composite flash. Atlanta Fed business inflation at 10 o'clock. 1 o'clock we have Baker Hughes rig count, and then we have Fed speak at 1:30 p.m. on Friday the 22nd. For our earnings for the week coming up, not too many earnings, but we do have some good names coming up. On Monday, we have Steelcase, symbol there is SCS. For Tuesday, we have AutoZone, AZO. We also have YGE will be reporting on Tuesday before the bell. As far as Tuesday after the close, we have some bigger names there. We have Adobe, ADBE. Then we have ALOG. We have BBBY, Bed Bath & Beyond. FedEx, FDX reporting earnings after the bell. For Wednesday before the bell, we have General Mills, GIS, and we also have Herman Miller, MLHR, that will be reporting. Also, this ASNA will be reporting after the close on Wednesday. For Thursday before the bell, we have EROS, MANU, which is Manu, SCHL. After the bell Thursday, we have ARCW, and we have Presidio, PSDO. Friday, we have CarMax, KMX, and we finish with Finish Line on Friday, and that's before the open, FINL. So while we have very few earnings reports for the week, we have some important ones here. This CarMax, Finish Line, that'll affect Nike, Under Armour, and Lulu. LU, General Mills, GIS, Bed Bath & Beyond, see how the retailers are doing, AutoZone, Adobe, FedEx. So there's some important earnings, especially this FedEx for the transports. So we'll see how we do as far as the earnings go for next week. So after the bell on Friday, top insider purchases after hours, 100K plus or more. VTL director purchased over 59,000 shares at $4.19. FRTA director purchased 23,000 and 33,000 on FRTA. FRGI purchased 70,000 at 1739. ERII director purchased 18K at 708. So those are some of your purchases. FLXN CMO purchased over 5,000 shares at 2448. Also, after the bell in syndicate news, we had some Form 3s filed. APDN. So basically, these are offerings. APDN filed Form S3, AREX filed Form S3, HCAP filed Form N2, HMNY filed Form S3, LXRX filed Form S3, OHRP filed Form S3, SEMG announced pricing of $300 million in senior notes, and WGL filed Form S3. So those were some of your offerings that came out on Friday after the bell. So let's go ahead and look at some of the Dow Jones industrial stocks. Apple pulling back a little bit from the highs here. Currently, Apple is trying to hold the lows here of 158 area. It is below the 10 SMA and below the 5 EMA on the daily chart for Apple. If we go ahead and look at it on the weekly chart, though, we're still above the 10 SMA on the weekly chart for Apple. Boeing, defense name, powering up to new highs, and a very nice move in Boeing. And for the week, Boeing was up 4% for the week. And you see how it's been riding the 10 SMA on the daily chart. So very strong stock on Boeing. Caterpillar pushing up to new all-time highs on Caterpillar, riding the 5 EMA. Well up above the 10 SMA now on Caterpillar. Cisco kind of just consolidating still. Some of the oil names, CVX, this one was up 3% for the week, so nice push there in CVX. Disney not faring as well, but was up 1.49% for the week, and you see it is at the 200 SMA on the weekly chart for Disney and trying to hold the lows here of $96, we'll call it, for a Disney. For GE, just continuous slide down in General Electric. Goldman Sachs, for the week, Goldman Sachs was up 3% and trying to hold this 50 SMA on the weekly chart for Goldman Sachs. Home Depot pulling back a bit after that big push from the hurricanes. And so that was down a little bit less than 1% for the week. IBM still kind of floundering below the 10 SMA on the weekly chart. As we noted, Intel had a very nice week this week in the Dow stock, so nice push up there. J&J, trying to break out above record highs here, holding the 20 SMA on the daily chart. JP Morgan, strong week, holding the 20 SMA on the weekly chart. KO, this one pushed up, but now this candle sold off around that 47 resistance spot on KO. McDonald's, a little bit of a pullback this week, down about 2%, but still at this 10 SMA on the weekly chart. 3M powered up this week, up 4% for the week. Merck having a very nice week, up 3% for the week. Microsoft pushing higher on Microsoft, up almost 2% for the week. Nike not faring as well, but trying to hold the 200 SMA on your weekly chart here. Pfizer, big strong week, up almost 4% for the week on Pfizer. And this held the 200 SMA on the weekly chart and now is powering up on Pfizer. Procter & Gamble coming up to a resistance spot here around 94 on Procter & Gamble. Travelers was up a little bit fractionally for the week after they got slammed down from the hurricanes. A little bit of recovery there for Travelers. UNH powering up to new highs on UNH. UTX, defense name, trying to hold this 200 SMA on the weekly chart, up about 3% for the week. Visa, kind of an indecisive candle here, but after this big run, you'd kind of expect that. So kind of an inverted hammer here on Visa, so we'll have to watch that one. Verizon, still below the 200 SMA, but a little bit of a bounce for the week, up almost 4% for the week. Walmart chart on the weekly chart is looking nice. It's above the 20 SMA, trying to break out maybe above this 81 spot. If we look at it on the daily spot, you see the consolidation here in Walmart and trying to get up and over the 81 spot. It is holding above the 50 SMA on the daily chart. XOM, the last one in the Dow, not faring as well as CVX, still below the 100 SMA. And for the weekly chart, we are starting to get above the 10 SMA, a slight bounce here off of 76. For the week, it was up about 2%. So that's some of your Dow stocks for the week. Some other big names that we'll go through real fast. Amazon trying to get back over the 10 SMA on the weekly chart. For Amazon, it's up 2% for the week. We'll take a look at Costco, trying to push back up 5% for the week on Costco. Next one up, we'll take a look at on the weekly chart, very strong Federal Express, and they have earnings this week. eBay powering up to new highs. Next one we'll look at is Celgene powering up near all-time highs here for Celgene. Amgen having a very nice week. So the market is just very strong. All these different sectors, Amgen pushing up for the week. Facebook holding above the 10 SMA on the weekly. Google, only one showing a little bit of weakness for the week, down a little bit less than 1% for the week, below the 20 SMA. If we look at it on the daily chart, we are still kind of floundering here below the 50 SMA and back under the 5 EMA for Google. NVIDIA, we spoke about how strong that stock is. We'll take a look at Qualcomm on the weekly. Not much going on there, still below the 10 SMA on the weekly chart. Tesla was a very strong stock for the week. Square, very nice pop in SQ, holding above the 10. Big push up in Square, was up 7% for the week on SQ, and you see it's been riding the 5 EMA on your daily chart. VLO, the refiners, finally did break up over that $70 spot, riding the 5 EMA now. If we look at it on the weekly, you see the next spot here is probably around this 72 area for VLO. Priceline, last one we'll look at, I believe, is still below the 10 SMA on the weekly chart. Actually, last one we'll look at is CMG on the daily chart, trying to get back over the 20 SMA. If we look at it on the weekly chart, it is trying to hold support here around this 300, but still below most of the moving averages on the weekly chart for CMG, Chipotle Mexican Grill. And that's about all I have. You're now more ready for the week ahead than you were before. This has been Zozo Stock Watch. You can catch me on Twitter, StockTwits, and you can also catch me on LinkedIn. You can catch me here on YouTube. Thank you so much for all the support from YouTubers. We are now currently over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so much for that. If you're new to YouTube, please hit the subscribe button, and also please hit the like buttons. Please retweet these videos. You are now more ready for the week ahead, September 18th through September 22nd, than you were before. Good trading. Don't forget, there'll be a Stocks to Watch video coming out for Sunday. And thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for your support.